So I recently moved back to Stanford. I'm at my campus now, and I have been absolutely falling in love with Bard's Tale 4. It's on its way to becoming one of my favorite games of all time. The design in this game is incredible. However, technically, it's it's a mess. I would be embarrassed if I was an engineer who worked on this game because it crashes literally every other time I play the game. And this could be the case of if you use a certain spell, the game quits. It's like Unreal Engine 4 error, and the game's done. There are other cases where you might walk into a bush a certain way and you're stuck there, and there's no way to kill yourself. So you literally have to reload your last save, maybe like 20 minutes beforehand. And then there's even cases where you can completely brick your save file. And that was the case of this person on the Bard's Tale subreddit, Neolfex. And what happened was their save file was completely corrupted. There was no way for them to go back in time. Thankfully, I was able to share with them my save files. So we were able to catch them up a little bit. But ultimately, this is just a disaster. And I've created a system that's going to auto back up your saves. That way, no matter where you are, no matter what happens to the save files, you can always restore a previous version of your save history. So this is actually not going to be too specific to Bard's Tale. You could use this for any project. So if you're working with a software program that you know you might crash, might corrupt your save file, right? That's certainly the case of DaVinci Resolve, which is a program I use, and Unreal Engine is known to crash all the time, and Unity Engine has been crashing quite a few times for me as well. But whatever it is, we're going to create a system that you can actually set an increment, let's say 10 minutes, and then every 10 minutes it'll save your progress. So you can go back in time to that 10-minute save and restore it if something happens, your save file is corrupted, whatever the case. So we're going to walk through that right now, and I think the best way to introduce that concept is starting with Google Docs, which I think most of my viewers will be familiar with. And if you see on the right-hand side here, Google Docs basically has a version history for the document. And what that means is I can go back to, what me or Scott, okay, so let's look at me here. So I typed something on September 16th. I could actually go back to that point in time and restore the document to that state. So if you're not familiar with version control, that's essentially what we're doing. We're going to be using a system called Git, which is basically a version control language, which will allow us to make these incremental saves that we can later go back to. The way to do that, or rather what that will require, is two software programs for you to download. The first is SourceTree, which you can find at this website, sourcetreeapp.com. This is basically going to be a visual interface for Git. And then the second thing is Git itself, which is, again, this programming language, you could think of it. It's a language specifically for version control, which again is the process of saving our versions and then going back to them. Simple as that. And what we're going to do here is actually open up SourceTree once you've downloaded it. And we're trying to set up what's called a repository. So that's what we see here. It's essentially what you'll have at the end of this tutorial, where you can incrementally save versions of your game every time increment that you set. So if we were to interpret the text here, this is saying 2019 09/28, which means September 28th of 2019, and then this is military time or 24-hour time of when we made the same save file. So this little dot, this blue dot right here, represents the save file created at 9:26:02 p.m. on September 28th, 2019. And this save file, this little blue dot, came 10 minutes after at 9:36 p.m. And so what we're trying to do is create a program that's going to automatically make these little dots for us. When we're programmers, when they're writing their code, they will make a version once they've completed something. So maybe they say, okay, I fixed a bug, and then they'll make a version there. But what we want is a little bit different. What we want is for the version to be automatically committed every time increment. So maybe every 10 minutes, which is the case of my setup. In order to do that, we need to create a small program which will, every 10 minutes, check whether or not anything has changed. And if something has changed, we're going to make that save. We're going to make that little blue dot. We're going to commit the change. And so I'm going to show you that program first, and then we'll go back in a source tree. But I just want to show you, basically, it's nothing crazy we're dealing with here. It's a very simple program, but it is written in a language that's a little bit scary called Bash. So if you haven't coded in Bash, don't be scared. Don't worry. We're going to be fine. It's just a few lines here. This first line of Autocommiter.sh, which is a program I'll have linked in the description of this video. So basically the sixth line here, or the first line of code, is creating a variable called current time, and it's going to have that string, that text, you could say, that text, which is going to be our commit message. So remember we saw, September 9th? This is essentially the line of code that creates that format, and it uses the current date to do so. The next thing that it does over lines 8 to 10 is going to look for any changes, and if it sees changes, it's going to compile them all into one version, essentially. One of those little blue dots that we saw in source tree. And then finally, we have an optional step here, which is going to push those changes to the cloud. So you don't need this. I'm actually going to disable it for now. But what that will allow you to do is if your computer gets stolen or completely broken, let's say somebody literally takes your computer, walks out of your house with it, you're still going to be okay. Your save files are going to be stored on the cloud, so you don't need to worry about it. And then lastly, it's just going to print out done. And I found that you need this print statement at the end, otherwise it doesn't work. But this program will work headless, so we shouldn't even see the print statement say done. It's just gonna work invisible to us. So that's a lot of words. We're gonna start now. That's the overview. If you didn't follow every step of that, that's totally fine. We're gonna walk now step by step in how you can create this program for your game or your Unity file, whatever it is you need it for. We're gonna walk through step by step. So the first thing is you just need to download this code, right? Autocommiter.sh. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to paste it to my desktop. So let's copy that here. Right now it's in my Bard's Tale save folder, but that might not be the folder where you need it, right? So I'm just going to paste it here on my desktop, and we're going to create a folder that you want to track. So this is going to be the folder where your Bard's Tale 4 files are saved, or it's going to be the folder of where your Unity project is. Whatever it is that you want to track, go to that folder in your computer, and that's where we're going to put the autocommitter script. So we're just going to plop that in right there. The next thing we need to do is actually tell Git, that program you installed, to start tracking changes to this folder. And in order to do that, we need to create a repository out of this folder. So to do this, go to source tree, click the plus icon over here, and click create. We're going to create a repository using that folder we have. So I called it track, so I'm going to select that folder, and then we can come up with a name for the repository. So I'm just going to call it track as well. Click create, click yes, and then awesome. So we have our repository set up, and check it out. They already have an unstaged file here, and that's the autocommitter program we downloaded. So the way that this program works is you stage a commit. You can then type in a message, hello, push commit, and then it will come up in the history as a little blue dot. So I just did that manually. We're going to now cover how to do it automatically. Basically, it's all handled by that program we wrote, Autocommiter.sh. So if I double click this box right here, it just did it. It just tried to add a new dot, a new commit. The reason why we didn't see one pop up, though, is because we had no changes. So it's not going to make a commit unless there's changes. So let's say I add a new text file here. Now we'll see that in the file status, there's a new file, an unstaged file that pops up here. And I could type a message right here and then push commit, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to, again, double-click autocommitter.sh. It's going to, again, look through those uncommitted changes. And check it out. We have a new dot now, a new little blue dot that was created automatically by running this autocommitter program. And folks, that's it. We now have a folder where we're tracking the changes, and a little program which will automatically commit the changes. Now there's one last thing we need to do. We need to create a system that's going to invoke that program. In my case, if you recall, I had a commit every 10 minutes. So we need a program that's going to call it every 10 minutes. And I actually do this at the system or operating system level. So this section of the tutorial will be specific to Windows operating system users. There are similar ways to do this on MacOS or Linux operating systems. However, this will be the approach for Windows. So for Windows, they have a program called Task Scheduler. And this actually comes by default in Windows. So you could just open it up here. Just type in Task Scheduler or Task here. Pop it up. And what you'll find here is that we can actually open up the Task Scheduler library. And these are all the tasks on your computer that are set to automatically run. And you might be surprised to find that there's a lot of stuff here you didn't set up on your own. So for example, it looks like Adobe Flash Player or Adobe Flash Player automatically has an updater that runs on my computer, right? So it's always good to check here and make sure you don't have software running that you don't want to be running. Not a lot of people know to do that. But you want to basically create your own task, which is going to run the Autocommiter program every 10 minutes or so. And so that's what I've done here in AutoGit Bard's Tale 4. So if I double click on this to pop it open, you're going to do just the same thing to set up your own thing. So here, let's do this. Let's click Create Basic Task. And we could type in a name here. So I'm going to say Auto Commit V2. I'm going to ask this task to run daily. And I'm going to say, let's have it run at 5:56 every single day. And it's going to start a program. I'm going to copy and paste this from the version I already have, which I believe is here. Oh, I can only have one window at once. Isn't that convenient? So let's just push finish. Oh, I got to type something. Next, finish. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up the example I have of Bard's Tale 4, which is the version I'm currently using. And we're just going to paste in the properties to make sure we have everything exactly how it should be. So the version on the right is the new one I'm creating, and the version on the left is my reference. So we want to make sure that it actually runs whether you're logged in or not. Again, these comes down to personal preference. So, choose whatever you feel comfortable with, but these are the settings that I found work best for me. I think running with highest privileges is actually important, so make sure you do check that. Then under triggers, we have every day at a certain time. You'll notice, though, that I also have it should repeat every 10 minutes for the duration of one day. So if it's triggering every day and it repeats for 10 minutes for a total of one day, then overall it'll be 10 minutes of every single day, right? So what we want to do is actually go in there and set a repeat task every 10 minutes. Okay, so that is going to depend on what your user, oh shit, I just closed it. Excuse me, let me pull that back open. So this is going to depend on, however you use your computer. If you start your day at 9 a.m. every day, then maybe that's a good fit for you. I've used this program at work, so, there's options there. But then what you want to do is actually, in the details, where I typed in just VCV here, you want to link to the version of Git that you downloaded online. So this is Git, right? It's that version control programming language, which you can find, I believe it's right here, Git Bash. Let me see if that's correct. So you should find it under the path of, no, that's not correct. So what I'm seeing here is it's under C, Program Files, Git, gitbash.exe. Oh, check it out. This is actually a shortcut to Git Bash. So if I go into Properties here, yeah, you can see the target is down here. So we don't want the shortcut. We want a link to Git Bash directly. So you want to type this path in. C, Program Files, gitbash.exe. Fantastic. Copy, paste. And you want to add in the arguments of whatever the program you want to run is named, which in our case is Autocommiter. And where I got that from is if I pull up our track folder right here, this program that we're trying to run that we double-clicked before, but now we want the computer to run it, is called Autocommiter.sh. So that's exactly what you're going to type into this box here. Okay, and I believe that is all the settings that we need. Let me double check that. Oh, excuse me. You do need to include quotation marks around this. And then when you choose Start In, you need to choose the folder or directory that Autocommitter is located in. So over here, oh, what is this? So over here, that should be like this. We should have quotation marks around this. And then lastly, Start In, we just want to list the path of the file that we're going to try to run. So that is right here. Copy, paste. So I'm going to go over that one last time. We have here the file, or sorry, the folder in which our saves are being stored. We have here, in quotation marks, the path to getbash.exe, which should be the same on your computer. And then lastly, again, should be the same for you, autocommiter.sh, the name of the program we want to run. So you push OK for that. Then there are other options here, conditions, settings, various other things you could set. There's a lot of customization here. But in total, that will allow the program to automatically run every 10 minutes or so. There's also an option to run it manually if you push this button here. And what's pretty cool is it will show you the next time it's scheduled to run, as well as the last time it actually ran. So the last time it ran was 7:56, and then it is scheduled to run in just about 7 minutes now at 8:06. So that's all you need in order to get set up. There's one last thing though, which is how to hook it up to the cloud. So previously I explained that it's an optional part. You don't have to do this. But if you are concerned about your computer being stolen or exploding, whatever the case is, or maybe the save folder, the literal, not the save file, but the entire directory exploding, then we can also back up that as well. So in order to do that, what you're going to need to do is create an account on an online repository hosting website. So Bitbucket is my favorite, but GitHub is another very popular one. But I'm going to use Bitbucket because I like Bitbucket a lot more. So let's open up Bitbucket. So just create an account on bitbucket.org and sign into your account, at which point you can push this lovely plus button here to create a repository. Again, a repository is just going to be a place where we could take those save files and basically upload them to the cloud for safekeeping. So let's create a repository. We're going to say the name is going to be called Tracking Repo. You can make it private if you'd like. We're going to create that repository. And then what we need to do is add an origin to our source tree. So what we're doing right now is we've created a repo online. We also have a repo on our desktop, which is what you see here with these little blue dots. What we're going to do right now is connect them so that the one on our desktop knows it should be sending updates to the one online. So in order to do that, click this button here called Terminal, and we're going to do some coding. Oh no, don't get scared, don't get scared. The coding is actually very simple, right? I don't know why these guys get paid so much money. All you need to do is copy and paste from here to here. Copy, paste, enter. Copy, paste, enter. Oh, and you have to log into your Bitbucket account here. I think that's my password. And that's it. We're programmers, right? Isn't this easy? Programming is a piece of cake, man. And we're done. Actually, there's one last thing. When I was talking to you earlier, let me see. I have to open with Sublime. When I was talking to you earlier, I changed the code here so that there was a hash symbol. That's basically a comment, which means don't run this line of code. we need to delete that. And the version you download, it will actually come already deleted. But you need to delete that in order for this section to run. So just delete that. And now, when we run our program, it will automatically upload to the cloud. That way, if your computer explodes or something, you could still get your save files back. Okay, so that concludes how to back up your save files, whether it's Bard's Tale, Unity, DaVinci Resolve, Unreal Engine 4, Microsoft Word, whatever you need to use it for. You can now create a repo that automatically tracks your changes without needing to know how to code, without having to double-click that button every 10 minutes. Though you could do it manually if you'd like. I hope this video helped you. If you have additional questions, if you try it out and you run into an issue, let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to work with you, help you out. And of course, if you have similar topics you'd be interested in learning about, I would love to do a video on it. So let me know. And if this video helped you, please do consider giving me a like, comment, subscribe. I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you in the next one.